Here we are. We're being recorded for the
Cool.
record, right? Um, well, I want to thank you first off for taking the time out of your day to talk with me.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I love y'all's products, so of course I'm happy to chat.
Awesome. I noticed when I went on your page, I noticed you had some interesting stuff I wanted to ask you about. Like you're doing this non-toxic thing. You're in Austin, right?
Yeah, I'm in Austin. I was
Okay.
born and raised here. I left for college and a while after, but moved back about 6 years ago. Are y'all in
Okay.
are you in Dallas? Is that right? Or is that
Yeah,
just
I
where the
mean,
facility is?
yeah, the main facility is like in Addison. That's where I started it all, and then we expanded there. We found a really good location where we expanded. We like that. It's kind of like a central hub of Dallas, because when I first started, it was all wellness center, right? So I started everything in the first location, which was in Addison. And we didn't have an online store, and it was like brick and mortar, grassroots. And I teamed up with the guy that was doing ozone. This was like almost 15 years ago. But since then, things have shifted a little bit. I bought him out of that business or whatever, and then we expanded to like an 8,000 square foot warehouse where I could like really do what I've always wanted to do with like the manufacturing. And like we just got like $180,000 mixer custom made. It took a year and a half to get this damn mixer. Like I was so pissed that it took so long to get, but super happy that we got it because and I can go into that if you ever wanted to, because it's really important with manufacturing, like the equipment that you use to mix powders. And a lot of companies use ribbon mixers and things, and I know you're in the no tox life, which is definitely like our vibe as well. And so
Mhm.
like the stuff that I found out with like the ribbon mixers and the paddle mixers on the market, and like the metals that are used, where they all come from, the fact that they're like super cheap, they're like 20-30 grand, which isn't like super cheap, but for manufacturing equipment, it's pretty cheap. So, but
No, for sure.
anyways,
That's what I've heard. Like a lot of the microplastics that end up in the food these days is from the manufacturing process because of all the plastic
yeah,
it comes into contact with throughout that. And so people don't realize that, but that's where a lot of the microplastics come from.
yeah, I could see where the plastics can be an issue, especially coming out of the farms. A lot of people, like a lot of these people that harvest herbs and stuff like that, they use a lot of plastic to get them into the fields, get them out of the fields and into certain storage containers. Uh, but one thing I've noticed is the metals, like, and it's not just like naturally occurring metals, right? Like that's different, and I think that's a conversation in itself. Like just the fact that like we have naturally occurring heavy metals, and then you have
Mm-hmm.
like exogenous heavy metals that get brought and introduced into the product or into our environment, right? And that's kind of like what I call exogenous, right? Because there's an external force that those get brought in, but the earth in itself does have all these elements right in it, and being able to discern the difference in that is very interesting, because sometimes people can go off on tangents and they can create blogs and like all this stuff, and it's kind of misleading, in a way, and you can tell by how they're written that they don't truly understand it. But from a manufacturing standpoint, like a lot of the mixers and stuff that I was talking about, that I see a lot of like lead and cadmium, like just like the
Yeah.
quality of the steel that gets used, because you definitely have to use steel, or that's what they call it. They call it steel, but it's really not, right? It's got all types of different elements inside of it. It's just like cooking pans. I don't know if you're familiar. I'm sure you are. You're no tox. Like I don't need to tell you anything.
Yeah.
We're probably just speaking to our audience here, but like I got the made in stainless steel pans because they don't use cadmium or lead in the stainless steel, right? And it all comes from Italy, so the stainless steel qualities there, are a little bit, the standards there are a little bit higher. US used to have really good steel. It's still one of the top in the world, but like when you go to like India and China and like some of these places, like they have the worst steel ever, and that's where like pretty much all the manufacturing equipment comes from. It's all made in China. It's all made
Yeah.
in India, and not to mention the microplastics, right? That kind of goes down into a different avenue because of like how they're pulling herbs out of the field. What are they putting them in? What are they storing them in? Most of
Yeah.
the time, it's plastic. Yeah, you see a lot of plastic. And I just like
No,
dropped a video. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, no, it's cool.
Oh, I was
I
just saying I
rant.
appreciate like I didn't even think about all that with all the metals and all of that. But that's amazing that that's something that y'all are considering because my first business was it was a paleo meal delivery business. And like we were all about like the food quality and all of that, but like we hadn't even gotten into like all of the just like equipment we were using to produce the food. And so that's like
Yeah.
another level that you're getting into all of that. And so I appreciate that so much because now after I got into the non-toxic world, that's like those are the kinds of things I started thinking about. But like I feel like you always just kind of like get into the health world in one aspect and then you start going deeper and deeper and you're like, oh yeah, this too, this too. I mean, we were using like food grade plastic containers for all of our meals that like now I would never eat anything that was been sitting in those for, a couple days. So
Right.
I love that you guys are doing that and thinking about all of that and like
So
different
on that
ingredients.
note, what do you do now?
Well, so I just built this website called Welper that's basically just a
Oh,
really
I'm
easy.
sorry. I meant with the plastic containures. Did y'all
Oh,
switch
sorry.
it?
I thought you were talking
I
about
didn't
like
mean to
me.
be like that forward. Like, what do you do now? I'm
Oh, yeah.
sorry.
No, I actually, well, in terms of that business or what do I eat my food out of?
Oh no. Okay, so I thought you were. I'm sorry. I'm having a kind of a hard time hearing you. So I guess the vibe I thought what you were saying y'all were using plastic because that's what most meal prep companies use, right? Like I don't know
We
any
were,
meal
yeah.
prep companies that don't. I know even methodology like I think I, I know some of the
Is it
stuff came in glass, but
Yeah,
I think
it's very heavily operational if you are using glass because you just have to like wash it, return it,
breakage.
wash
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Like
And like at the
that's a
time
tough
I
one.
was naive thinking that like, okay, the FDA says this is food safe plastic. Now I'm like, no, I do not trust the FDA. I don't
Right.
like I would not eat food out of that. And I think a lot of my health issues I was dealing with for a while towards the end of that business were because I was eating all of my food out of food grade plastic.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So,
when we look at just plastic in general, the history of it, it hasn't been around that long. It's not
yeah,
like something the Egyptians were using, right? Like,
no.
like, so and when we think about like the whole, like just timeline of it all too, like my parents, which my parents are like 70 now, hitting that 60, 70 range when they grew up, and then when I was, probably sheesh, after they grew up and they're late 20s, early 30s, that's when we started seeing so many of these chemicals being introduced like in heavy amounts. And even before that, of course, but there was no awareness for it. Right? Like
Mhm.
there wasn't really this thing for organic food. Like it wasn't a thing yet, really. And imagine like what we know now versus and that's still the same crap that's being produced now was being produced then, but there was no like standards really, and so these companies were just
Yeah, they
yeah,
didn't have to even have to think about it. Everything was locally grown, everything was organic, and yeah,
yeah, yeah. If you ate from your garden and all that jazz, for sure.
we'll get back to
Okay.
it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the goal, right? That's the goal
Yeah,
here, is to get
I
back
think
to
people
that.
are becoming more aware of it and interested in all of it, which is exciting.
Yeah. All right. I'm just trying to troubleshoot this one last thing right quick, and then let me see here. I don't know why it's. I mean, I can hear you pretty good. I should probably put my headphones on, but I have wired headphones, but I still just don't like how they feel. I don't like the
Oh,
EMF from it,
I
even
have
though they're
wired
wired.
headphones. So I feel you though. Every time I walk in for my walk every morning, and I have my wired headphones, and I'm just like fumbling with my dog and all this stuff, but I'm just like I'm not gonna wear AirPods. So
Yeah.
uh,
Built. Yeah. So for some reason, it's doing these.
I would rather deal with the wires than the radio
No, yeah, I hear
frequencies.
you. And you got a pit, right?
I do. Yeah, he's sweet. He just went outside. He's outside my office, just getting some
Yeah,
sun.
mine will. I don't have a pit, but I've got a bull terrier, so they're kind of similar
Oh,
breed. They're so fun.
the best. Yeah.
Yeah, they're the best. They're the best. Yeah, it says I'm pulling to this. Sorry, I'm over here like troubleshooting this. For some
Oh,
reason,
no
it put
worries.
your audio on this internal speaker BS, and now it's like I can barely hear you. Okay, no worries. We're just gonna rock this taco and we're get it done. Sorry, that's my Texan coming out. You know, someone's from Texas when they say certain
Yeah.
there's certain sayings that we say. So, are you born and raised in Austin?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Austin. Left for college, and then for about like 10 years after college, and then moved back in 2019. So, yeah. What about you? Were
Okay.
you born and raised in Dallas?
No, I was. It was about 2 hours north. Is where I was raised, and then about an hour in between. So 2 hours north, and then an hour in between. I was raised there as well. So my grandpa had a lot of land, and my biological father wasn't around much. So like we were with my mom's side and their whole family a lot, and they're a huge German family. And there's my mom has like seven sisters and a brother, so I was always there, so that was like an hour away, you know what I mean, from where I grew
What
up.
town?
And Forestburg, Wichita Falls is where I grew up, where I was born.
Oh, yeah.
And then,
My uncle's
and
from there.
okay, cool. So you know Wichita Falls, tiny town,
Yeah.
right? Like nothing crazy.
Mhm.
And then Forestburg or Montague County, which is south of that, which is near like Bowie, Gainesville. I don't know if any of these. I'm just dropping little.
Yeah, for sure.
Might have heard a few of those places. That's where my grandpa and my grandma had a lot of land there, and so I was like super heavily influenced there because I was just there a lot. It's like all summer long. It
Yeah.
was a nightmare. It was a nightmare when I was a kid. I hated it, but
Nice.
looking back, it was the best thing ever for me. So awesome. So as far as all the non-talk stuff that you're doing now, um, you want to tell a little like tell everyone about your journey and your story, because I mean obviously you wouldn't be pushing it heavy unless you saw issues, right, in your health and your health
Yeah.
journey, and then like kind of like what you're getting into now and what you're vibing and all that good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So, I started my first company that I mentioned, Model Meals. It was a paleo meal delivery business in 2015. That was in California, and we ran the business for about 6 years before we got acquired. And then I started working for the company that acquired us. Worked for them as their CFO. They were a publicly traded company, so I worked with them for about a year before I left because I was dealing with so many health issues. I just like was dealing with autoimmune symptoms, and it all kind of started like I got this really bad stomach virus when I lived in Cape Town, South Africa for a little bit in like 2018, and I got a really bad stomach virus. And like after you have something like that, your stomach is just your gut's like so susceptible to like anything. Your body's so sensitive. And so my theory is I was like eating all this food out of these plastic containers. I think that like my gut was just like very like
Mm,
permeable, and I really think that like that was a big part of like why I got so sick. And so
right.
anyways, I left the company because I was just like I'm not getting it's been like years and I'm not getting better. I'm eating really healthy, so there has to be like something else going on in my environment that is causing me to not be able to get better. And so I started
Mm,
getting very into like non-toxic living, and like started with like my cleaning products and just everything in my house, my clothes, like literally everything. And so over this like I started getting into this for like a few months, and I was like, this is just like so much. Like there's so it's very overwhelming. Like every time you run out of a product and you need to like find a non-toxic version, I was like going to the EWG website and then to Amazon to like I was like first I need to see what it ranks on EWG, and then I need to see like what other people are saying about it if it's a good product. And so I was doing this with basically like every single product that I switched out. And met up with like my business partner around that time. We started talking about this idea to start a non-toxic products website. And so we started building this website, Wellbird, basically just so that like every single product that you need non-toxic, rather than having to research it yourself, just go to our website. We built an algorithm or we built the product database so that you could see like, what does it rank on the EWG website? Does it have any other certifications? What are the ingredients? And then we also built an algorithm that like brings in Amazon reviews so that you know if it's like an effective product and all of that. So basically we built this website just for like every single non-toxic product you could need and make it really easy so that you just go to the site and say, I need a non-toxic laundry detergent, and you can just pick the best one or pick like whichever one works for you, but we'll have like 5 to 10 options. So been working on that
So
for
would
like
that
the
be
past year.
like I'm sorry, I'm just curious. That's awesome. So it's gonna be would it be like an app and then people can like say that someone types in laundry detergent, right? And then they are able to just identify it and then they have to go and find it, or how does that work? Does it like sync up? Does it deliver it to them? How does it all? What's your vision there and all that good stuff?
It's just a website, not an app. It's very mobile friendly, so you can find it on your phone, or so you can search it on your phone. But then we link out to Amazon or what sometimes the brand's website. So we just link out so you can say buy on Amazon, and it takes it to your Amazon cart and you check out.
Nice, nice. That's
Um,
cool.
so yeah, so the website's like pretty much just we just kind of finished building it within the past couple of weeks, which is like I'm sure I don't know. It's just like a weird time in any entrepreneur's life when you're like, okay, wait, this thing that I've been building for the past year is now kind of like self-sustaining and running itself. It just doesn't like require that much of my work, that much of my time anymore. And so now it's like, all right, what's the next thing? And
Yeah,
but it's also kind of a weird time. So, but yeah, it's exciting.
that's cool. And so this will be like a free service, or will there be a paid version of it too that people could?
It's free. So we just it's all an affiliate setup. So whichever website you buy from pays us a commission.
Nice. That's clever. I
So yeah,
like that.
now we're
That's
just
cool.
like trying to get the word out about it and waiting for our SEO to build up. But it's cool. I definitely wanted a very like passive income business after my first one because the first one was so heavily operational and like just was very time consuming, which I'm sure you understand with a food business, but especially the meal delivery that was like
Meal prep's another animal. It's a whole
it,
nother animal.
yeah, that's probably another reason that my health got so bad. But anyways, oh yeah, back to your original question. Anyways, as I went through non-toxic all of this non-toxic living, my health I just like my health improved so much. Like I was dealing with an autoimmune condition called mast cell activation syndrome, which is like you basically have like mast cells that build up in your body. It's kind of hard to I don't even fully understand it. I had a doctor tell me that that's what all my symptoms seemed like, but it's weird. It's like every time that I'm like it's like a chemical sensitivity. Like every time I'm exposed to these toxins, like I have these symptoms. But before I went non-toxic, it was like every day I was having these symptoms. And
Yeah.
so now, like maybe if I like I don't know, like sometimes when I travel, I get it, but it's just like gotten so much better since I went non-toxic with all of my all of my things.
What do you think was like is it the fragrances, do you think, that are like the number one trigger? Or do you have an idea in your mind's eye? Like, cause you're probably so dialed in now that you go down like maybe you travel to Mexico and then you go to the laundry detergent aisle in a third world country and you're just like blasted with nothing but like amber. And,
No, I can't do the fragrances, but it was just weird. It was like yeah, fragrances are a big one. Randomly the other night, like the other day, I was at my family's ranch, which is down in southeast Texas, and I was
Mhm.
like walking outside the house barefoot because God forbid I want to get some grounding in when I'm out in the country, and all
Yeah, but
night I all night I couldn't sleep because my feet were itching, and it turns out that like someone had they spray like a fire ant killer outside the house and
Oh
like
shit.
and
Yeah.
like for like a couple days after, I just have like I get like brain fog and like
Yeah.
um just like really bad anxiety. It's so weird. And so I don't know, like it's really just like my body knows when something is not good for you.
Right. Yeah.
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 So fragrances are
Man.
bad though. I mean, I can't believe like when I just go for walks around my neighborhood, I am like I can smell your laundry detergent like on the whole like
And the dryer vents. The dryer vents from people's homes. Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. This does, yeah, it's,
I'm
I have a,
very anti-fragrance. And even like what when you're walking on the trail, like people like you can smell people from like a mile away. And
yeah,
so
certain people like to dose up on the perfumes and stuff.
yeah, I'm gonna move out to the country at some point in my life soon.
So you're pretty close, you're pretty tight in the city right now, I assume, just based on kind of
Yeah,
like how
I'm
close.
in Austin, just like you know, I'm like 7 minutes from downtown. I'm in a great neighborhood, but like I think you just sometimes you get to a point in your life where you're like, I want space. I want like
Yep.
I don't want like cell phone towers around me. I don't want
Yep. Yep.
hear people
Yeah, we
leaf blowers. Yeah.
Yeah, or just cars at night. Because one thing that we don't realize is that we're in the city, we're constantly hearing things. Like I have some clients in New York, and it's like, oh, I love New York, and every time I'm on the phone with them, it's like, it's just nuts. And in my mind, they're like, oh, you get used to it. I'm like, you get used to hearing shit all the time, but your body doesn't get used to that. Like you're constantly putting a load on your nervous system, right? And it's like whether you're conscious of it or not. So yeah, it's like for me, I when things started getting kind of crazy in the business, yeah, I told my wife, I was like, either we have to move, like let's shut the business down and take everything and just go live like hippies, or we gotta figure something out, like So we found a luckily we found a spot. I was only able to pick up a few acres and still be like 45 minutes from our shop, but I get like one cell phone bar here where I'm at, and that was kind of like that was the vibe we wanted. It's a small little town. It kind of we're up kind of high, but our area, like I have to run Starlink. Like I don't have there's no like major cell towers, and it's a relief, because every time I go into the city, like even after I go to the office, I'm just like, just feel like I get zapped. Just
Yeah.
and
I feel
and
like
maybe I'm a little bitch. I don't know, but all I know is like when I go downtown and I'm coming back, I don't know if it's traffic or being on the road or what. I just feel like something sucked the life out of my. I'm just like,
I
gosh.
don't know, like I think like what you said about getting used to it, I think like yes, you probably do get used to it, but is that good for you? No. And so I think you also get used to, I think like once you go back to the quiet and without it, that's when you get really sensitive to it again. Because I've noticed like that even just with myself and other people who kind of like move somewhere quiet and then they come back in the city and they're like, oh my gosh, like this is just too much. And I don't think, and so I think like, yes, maybe you get used to it, but I don't think it's good for us because it's not really how you're supposed to live. And I think that's like, very applicable with a lot of things in the health world. Like when you stop eating processed foods and you have some, and it makes you feel terrible. But it's like, yes, if you eat those foods all the time, you will get used to it, but that you just get used to like the way you feel with them. So
Yeah, and there's something to also to be said. Like we're creatures of adaptation, and we need to adapt, right? And we need to be able to be adaptive, and that's why I love adaptogenic herbs because you can put yourself in a stressful situation, but if you're physiologically dialed in, then your body doesn't respond the same as like someone else maybe that is stimulated out of their mind from caffeine, and they're depleted in magnesium, they're drinking tap liquid from the sink, that stuff or whatever, or they're using a Brita filter and they think that's good enough or some shit.
yeah,
um
you.
but like EMF and toxins and pollution, that's a whole nother, like, can our body actually physically adapt to that? And I think you're right. I think you do, in a sense, that you get used to it, but it's a little different, than, like, I don't know. Things get taken for face value a lot. Context gets pulled out, and especially in the health space, and just kind of on the vibe of non-toxic living. It's like a lot of people right now on the internet are like heavy metals and parasites, right? You see all these videos, right? And people are like pulling these long tapeworms out of their body, and their kids, like, my kids, it saved my kid's life. It's very alarming, right? When you see that at face value. And then, you've got a group of people, though, because I worked one-on-one with people I still do. I still have some clients that I still work with. I gave a high number, they paid. I was like, okay, cool. You can have my cell phone number. But I guess, where was I going to go with all that? It's just like, not everyone's ready to cleanse. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how else to say it. Like, some people can benefit from these things, but some people don't. So you've got a group of people out there that are like pushing, like, do these parasite cleanses, doing this, it changed my life. And then you got a whole other group of people that are like, no, don't do that. You're gonna kill yourself. Like, don't eat oregano oil. Like, that's gonna harm you. Don't take binders. And then when you look at the people that are saying don't do that, they typically have done it, and they've had a bad experience from it because their body wasn't able to actually detoxify properly, right? Or they jumped into a parasite cleanse instead of addressing the digestive system first and metals first, and they didn't have an approach to it that made sense for them in their lives, right? So again, context gets pulled out. We see these like very hooky, bam, engaging, like, oh, I gotta watch this stuff. And then it kind of creates this idea in someone's mind's eye that maybe they need to do that because they have maybe similar symptom. But
yeah,
yeah,
I think a lot of people like just they try to do these like complicated health things without even addressing the foundation first. It's like they want to just like go take this supplement or whatever, but then you're like, well, what are you actually eating on a daily basis? Like, are you?
When's the last time you sweat? You went in the sauna? And,
getting sunlight, like, and they want to like go do something that some like think that like some supplement's just going to cure everything.
Right.
And like I've been in that position before too. But
me too. Me too. Learn from us. We fucked up. Learn from us.
Honestly, I'm like food, sleep, water, sunlight, grounding, just the basics. That's what you need.
Yeah.
Supplements are great tools and almost like an add-on. So
yeah, they're tools. They're not tickets, and that's what people have to understand. They fill in the gap, but they're not the complete solution. We are the solution. We have to understand that. Yeah. I think that, like, I'm doing a digital wellness center right now because that's kind of like what built the brand and built the whole company. And I've always wanted to take it online, but it was always going to be real expensive to do until now with AI. Now it's actually easy to do. So I'm doing it now, right? And one of the first things I wanted to talk about in the whole, intro of this whole digital wellness center was like the 3 essential nutrients the body needs. Start with oxygen, water, and sodium, right? Because those are the 3 essential nutrients that the physical needs. And just talking about oxygen alone, like, holy cow, like how people breathe, are people doing breath work, and just the idea of oxygen utilization in the body, mouth taping, working out the jaw, getting the correct alignment so that you can actually breathe correctly. So you're not mouth breathing all night, right? And all these little things that you can do for absolutely free, that will completely change your life. Like you take a supplement here and there and you're like, wow, this really moved the needle. Especially like magnesium, for example, right? If you're magnesium deficient and you start taking like any form of it, like you can take the worst form, like magnesium oxide, and you'll be like, I kind of noticed something. Like, it moved the needle a little bit, right? But holy moly, breath work, learning how to meditate and calm the breath, to be conscious breath breathing. I think there's something there too. I know everyone's got their way of doing it, Like Wim Hof has his way. There's the box breathing. The Vedics have their way. The Taoists have their way. And they're all amazing ways. It seems like they're rivers that all reach the sea. But just the idea of being conscious of breath in itself, whether you're, like I said,
you can take like 5 deep breaths and that will help you
tremendously, right? It's scientifically, yeah, and it's easy, and you can do it whenever. And creating those habits, it's free, is key. So I just to add to what you said, like keep it simple, start with the basics, start with the foundation, and your life will completely change.
Yeah.
The caveat is we are creatures of habit, so we have to undo bad habits, right? And sometimes I think that for myself, especially in the beginning, I tried to do too much at once, and or my focus was directed more maybe at things I could consume, but I wasn't addressing like my internal state, right? Like how do I feel, in the morning, in the evening, in the afternoon? Or do I wait till I feel like complete crap till I'm like, oh, I feel like crap? Like recognize when you feel well, right? So so that when you start to feel unwell, you can catch it, right? And yeah.
What's your
routine
like?
Oh, my routine. Oh, thank you for asking. Okay. So my vibe right now. So meditation's huge for me. It saved my life. I think everyone needs to meditate. So that's something I try to do. I used to do every morning. I built a pyramid. I had crystals. I was like all into it. You can ask my wife. She's like, he's crazy. He used to get up at like 5 a.m. and meditate for an hour every morning in the pyramid. And, I go back and forth on how much I meditate, but it's still definitely in the routine. So meditation's key. Right now, and I won't go into all the different types of meditations I've done or whatever. I won't bore you guys with that shit. But that is definitely in the regime. So I like to wake up. I like to go straight to some water and salt. That's the first thing I do. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Yes. And here lately, I've actually been doing the M hydrate instead of the salt in the morning just because it has the M salt in it, but it also has the ocean extraction of the electrolytes. So it's a little bit higher in potassium, a little bit higher than in the ideal electrolyte. So that's what I've been playing with now, but it's all the same really in my mind. It's just a little different. I'm super active, so I try to get a little bit more electrolytes in the morning, but I do that, and then I try to go into a meditation. So if I can get 30 minutes in, 30 to 45 minutes in, and then I'm just a completely changed person. And it does change. My meditation does change a lot. Like sometimes when I'm in meditation, when I first used to meditate, it was a lot about like just calming down. But now I've kind of switched it more towards I have a couple different things I do. Like I have an abundance meditation, I have a strategy meditation, and then I have a self-reflection meditation where like how can I improve self? So through that meditation, I reflect where in the past I've acted a specific way or responded or reacted in a way that I didn't like, right? And not in a way that I want to be in the future, like how I envision myself. So again, I guess before I go into all this and go into meditation, like really identifying who I am and who I want to be as a person, as a father, as a husband, as a CEO, as a friend, as a brother, all those things that we are in lives. And as a coach, I'm a soccer coach now. I got thrown into that shit. But as a farmer, yeah. And so, yeah, that's kind of been my vibe now here lately. It's like really getting into the skeletons in the closet and getting into a deep meditative state, getting into that low beta, hopefully I'm in alpha, but then replaying what I don't like, and then giving that to my I am presence or my higher self, and then listening. And then usually I get a download on like sometimes it gets me emotional. Because sometimes I'll get downloads that'll just tell me like what, it's not like a self-deprecating, it's more of like you're a child of love and God. Like, what are you thinking? You know, and like through that kind of emotion that gets pushed upon me as I think about in a way that I reacted or responded in a way that I don't like. Man, it really kind of just unlifts the veil and just brings in divine love, you know. And then so I obviously want to emanate that as much as I can. And so then I just play a future. Okay, what if I get into this situation again? How would I react or respond? And I just kind of replay that. Maybe have like a mantra too. Like my mantra right now is peace, patience, and prosperity. So I have this 3 P's. So I just kind of like find myself. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, I heard an echo. Do you use an app to do these meditations, or do you just like set a timer and like kind of
I do like music when I meditate. I like a lot of Joe Dispenza stuff. I
Yeah.
really vibe him. Sometimes it's a little too much words for me, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes if you've ever done, yeah, you like the morning meditation.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's a good one
It's
to
a great
start
one.
with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a vibe, and I love that one. It's so good. I also like the perineum ones. Those are like really. I try to incorporate that with it. So sometimes it just depends. You know what I mean? Like if I don't want a bunch of noise, like telling me what to do, because sometimes Joe's meditations are very like he's there with you. Oh, and he kind of talks like this, and so sometimes it's kind of weird. Sometimes it's hard for me to like not laugh sometimes or like get distracted. But yeah, no, yeah, meditation. And then after that, so 4 days out of the week, I like to train. So I usually will go into that. Sometimes I'll have some ketones. It just depends. Sometimes I don't. Uh, I'll typically on days I train though, I do about 25 milligrams of caffeine fasted, but then I hit that with some BCAs and 32 ounce. It's like a 32-ounce thing of liquid, and I'll put maybe a little bit of fermented ketones inside of it. I'll put a big dose of more hydrate or some more salt inside of there, and then I'll put some like maybe some branch chains in there as well. And then there's just some herbs. I'm always playing with stuff. So right now I'm playing with a really awesome Paul de Arco extract and a Una de Gato, a cat's claw extract. So I've been putting that, I've been putting that in there.
Like, what are the benefits of those?
Which one, Paul de Arco or Una de Gato?
I've never heard of either of them.
Oh, okay. So these are South American herbs. So Paul de Arco, if you think about it, the word de Arco, they used to make their bows out of it, like the arc. So it's a very strong wood, but it's yeah, it's antifungal. So it's like anti-candida, antifungal. That's like the big push there. So it just kind of helps balance out the bacteria. If there's some funky guys working around a little bit, and typically I'm also doing a little bit of an ozone. So about 4 or 5 days out of the week, I'll do an ozone insufflation first. And so that's why I take the Paul de Arco. So that's why I went back to ozone before I'll tell you about Una de Gato cat's claw. But so Paul de Arco is kind of like this antifungal herb, right? But when you can increase your oxygen utilization and dump a bunch of oxygen and ozone in your body, you can basically like speed up any herbal, like anything you take herbal wise, it'll help kind of accentuate it, help deliver it, because the ozone helps speed up all the metabolic processes in the body, right? And it supercharges everything with oxygen. So your transport chains are fucking just lit and everything just pushes and moves quickly. And so I like to take herbs fasted after an ozone because there's nothing in the way, right? And I don't do that every day. I do ozone like 4 or 5 days a week. But like on the days after that, I'll actually eat in the morning. So it's a little bit different. But on my days that I'm fasted, I'll hit that. But Una de Gato, cat's claw, it's kind of the same. It's more of an antiviral though, antibacterial, than it is an anti-candida. And I know that kind of seems like they're kind of the same, one and the same. But I've just taken those herbs forever, and I play with them.
Do y'all sell ozone? Have I seen that on your website before?
Yeah, I developed the ozone machine. So when I first got started, that's how it all started. A guy I met did ozone. I did the nutrition side, and yeah, some things happened with him. I found out it is what it is. I don't need to go into any of that, but yeah, it's just ozone has been in my life for a long time, and then around 3 or 4 years ago, I ended up teaming up with one of the head ozone scientists that helped pretty much everyone in the industry that's built ozone, longevity, promo life. He worked for all these guys, and I had known him through Blake, and he just kind of came to me. I talked to him about developing our own machine like many years ago, and he kind of came back to me. I think he left one of these bigger companies, and he's like, "Hey, I'm starting my own thing on the side. If you ever need help developing a machine, let me know." And he's kind of spilt the beans too on some stuff about the ozone industry that I found very interesting. I was a little hesitant because I'm like, this guy's just trying to maybe work an angle, but we ended up teaming up together. And he actually manufactures all our machines here in the USA. We don't use any ceramic or metal. That was kind of like the caveat that he was telling me. He's like, hey, all these companies are basically getting all their materials from China. They're cheap. There's no quality control. And they're either going to have some type of metal inside the cells. So when you make ozone, you make it in a cell. And a lot of times there's like 3 ways to do it. There's actually 4 ways you can do it. Cold plasma, which doesn't exist anymore. There was one guy that figured it out, but was like an alcoholic and a drunk. And he was actually part of the reason why I had to break off with the guy that first showed me ozone, because they were actually working together. And I actually liked that guy's machines a lot, but he wasn't dependable. He would take people's money. He wouldn't deliver machines. Like he was an alcoholic. He was a drug addict. That's what you get with that, right? But those are my favorite, like is a cold plasma. But it doesn't produce strong ozone. That's the caveat with it. But you don't necessarily need strong ozone. So there's another twist to the to that, you know what I mean? But if you want to make like really good ozonated oils, you do. If you want to make really strong waters, you do. But if not, then you don't really need it. The other way to make it is with ceramic. So you can use a ceramic like diode inside the cell, and then there's issues with that. The ceramic can break down into aluminum. Maybe not initially, but over time it can. So again, that no tox vibe, right? Like I don't want anything. Ozone is a very volatile gas. Like we have to understand that. Like it's 3 oxygen molecules bound together, and so the electrons aren't paired. Nothing's shared. So it's wanting to grab whatever it can before it can enter your body. And as soon as it enters the body, it splits off into O1 and O2. So people think, I put ozone in my body and they have like ozone floating around their body. No. As soon as it hits you, it breaks off to O1 to O2, which kind of goes deeper into like the whole idea of like it being volatile. Like it's not a stable molecule, but extremely powerful. The second way is to use titanium, and this is like kind of like what a lot of other people use. They use titanium in their cells, and they claim it's all ozone resistant, but we all know ozone resistant necessarily isn't ozone proof. And like for me, I need more data. I mean, I could have done whatever. Like we could have brought in any ozone cells that we wanted to. I'm not like a business dedicated to ozone development. I just have done it forever and learned a lot about it. But, again, it's just like one of those things that we don't know. Just like there's probably a ton of things we're going to find out even more about all the toxins in our environment that we don't know today. And we know a lot now, right? So it's just like, it's nuts.
Yeah.
But the last, and what we do is just pure quartz. It's just pure quartz glass. So there's no metal, there's no ceramic, and I can't make super strong ozone like the metal ones and the ceramic ones, but you don't want to put strong ozone in your body. Like if you want to make ozone to clean, like industrial cleaning machines, I think that, I don't know, but I would say that the metals or the ceramics will definitely make a stronger ozone output. It's not stable, so it fluctuates, because that's the other thing with the metal and the ceramic. It's not consistent and stable. And so when you work with people that are administering this gas inside of them, if you don't have stabilized ozone output, like this is no one talks about. You never hear anyone talk about stabilized ozone output because it's most people don't understand. They don't have the availability to talk about it. They don't want to talk about it, because fluctuating ozone makes it very tricky when you have an ailment going on and you need to get a specific dose, and maybe you need to raise your dose. You know, you could either be underdosing or overdosing, and then that can create a Hertz reaction. It goes into the same idea of like cleansing when you're not ready. You know, depending upon how polluted your internal system is, you know, it can stir that pot. And if those toxins don't have anywhere to go, they just get redistributed within the body into the tissues, and then you just feel like hammered ketchup. That's how I call it. And then a lot of people will say, oh, you're just detoxing. And it's like, no, you're retoxifying yourself is what's happening.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
My approach has always been like slow and gentle. You know, it's like what got us here took time. What's going to get us clear of what got us here is going to take time. You know, it's like this quick fix mentality, this blast inside of you mentality. That's how I was taught how to use ozone. But I quickly learned, and just through seeing like his clients come in and hearing the stories, and like, I'm like, dude, you don't know what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, you're hurting just as many people as you're helping. And that's the caveat, is that like a lot of people benefit from that. They can handle it, you know, but there's also a whole nother group of people that can't. And when you make products for people and you create businesses in the health and wellness space, you have a responsibility to make sure that whatever you're doing, you know, not only has disclaimers, but has guardrails. And, you know, it kind of sucks because you kind of have to water things down, but you do that for the safety of the whole. You know, is it the best decision to make? No. But it sure as hell isn't the worst. And that's for business decisions, as you know. Like, you can't always make the perfect decision because of external factors or things that get thrown into certain decisions you have to make, right? So, I mean, I don't need to tell you this. You're an entrepreneur, so you get it. But yeah, you know. So, anyways, those are the ways you make ozone. Yeah, we have our own machine. Blah blah. Ja.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with ozone, but I would love to try it sometime. But you just do it regularly as a part of your routine?
Yeah, so for me, I do an insufflation, which is like an enema of it, except like with an enema, it takes like an hour out of your day. This takes like 5 minutes out of my day. But yeah, so when you do the enema version of it, it's basically like a catheter. It's a catheter that you use, right? So it's nothing, right? It's super easy. And yeah, it's the same as doing like autohemotherapy where you inject it in your blood. It's 98.9% as effective as doing autohemotherapy. Autohemotherapy, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but that's where they draw your blood out of your veins. So that, you know, they got to hit you with the needle, you got to pull your blood out, and then they ozone it, and then they inject it back in you. And if they're fancy, they'll run it through UV light too. And I love this therapy, by the way. I am not shunning this therapy. Because this therapy, like for you,
what do the people do it for?
So it supercharges every single metabolic process in your body. So we know we need more oxygen than we need water, right? Mm-hmm. But most of us aren't breathing correctly. We're shallow breathing. We're stressed out. So our body isn't getting the amount of oxygen it needs. And over time, our body isn't even able to utilize oxygen correctly through toxin loads, things that interfere with our ability to metabolize oxygen correctly. So it mitigates that completely at the root. So when people look, there's not one thing it does. Yeah, it does one thing, but we have to look at it from more of this idea that like we need more oxygen than anything in the body. The body needs oxygen more than anything in the world. So number one element we need. And when you look at like disease, toxins, mold, parasites, viruses, they can't live in an oxygen-rich state, right? And it's not that toxins can't live in it. Toxins aren't alive. But the channels that allow our body to detox are oxygen-dependent. But a lot of these toxins we know get gobbled up with viruses and bacteria and parasites, right? There's like this correlation. There's synergy, you know, with heavy metals and parasites. Like, why? Like people are like, oh, you hear all these different theories, right? Like, oh, parasites love heavy metals and they're attracted to their charge. Or you hear they hide behind them. Or, you know, there's all these theories out there. I don't know if anyone really knows, but there's definitely a correlation with them. And exactly why you'd want to do a metal detox before you do a parasite detox, or are you doing one and the same? So, and I'm sure you're familiar with some of these ideas in the health space. Done them all. Yeah. So ozone just like, yeah, it just supercharges your whole body, man. It's just one of those things that like gets your immune system everything it needs, so all your immune cells are functioning properly. Helps the endocrine system, digestive system, the circulatory system, because you're just loading your body up with oxygen, O2, and then O1. And O1 is the one that's interesting, because that's the one that actually goes around and like really helps lower your like toxic load in the body. So it can like basically disrupt the membranes of certain viruses and bacteria, mold, candida, fungus. So you've got this one form of the O3 that gets broken off, and it's kind of like the one that goes in and cleans things up, right? I can almost look at it like enzymes, right? Not really, but let's just bear with me here, right? And so it's cleaning the house, but then that O2 just feeds, it's like taking in an extra breath of air. But the cool thing about ozone is that it's the only oxidative therapy that can't oxidize you. So like hyperbaric oxygen can oxidize you. Was it H2O2 or H2O? So like peroxide therapy, so hydrogen peroxide. I don't know if you've seen people do hydrogen peroxide therapies where they just drink small amounts. So that can oxidize you. So you got to be careful. But oxygen is a very powerful cleaner. You just have to be careful with the forms that you use. But one thing I love about ozone is it can't oxidize you in a pH above like 7.9. And obviously you would be dead if your pH was that high, right? So it's like one of the safer oxidative therapies to use. But the real name of the game is low and slow with ozone. So if you're interested in trying it, I always tell people like, go do autohemotherapy. It's going to cost you around $600, $400 to get you a good pack of them, because you want to get a pack of them. The thing that sucks is you have to poke your arm. It takes about an hour out of your day, and you can't do that the next day or the next day or the next day. And the way that ozone kind of works in the body is it slowly can build in the body. And that's what you want. You want to slowly get your levels raised. You don't want to do a fast, bam, because it's too much. It's too extreme on the body. So if you can slowly, gently raise your O2 levels and your ozone levels in your body, then you can really get to a place where your vibration is at a whole new level of awareness. So you just start noticing like your breaths are deeper, especially after your first, like if you get an IV for your first time, you'll notice you have like this forever inhale, is what I call it. It's like this, like you just feel like your body's you're just like, oh my gosh. And you'll notice, like for me, my first experience, I could see better. I mean, everything was supercharged. It was amazing. There wasn't one thing that wasn't. My dreams were super vivid. Those like after my first like few sessions, I mean, they're vivid now, but it's like I just remember like a few things from my first few sessions, and yeah, man, it's just like a complete night and day difference in how you feel. So I always suggest if you're on the fence on getting your own machine, go and do some autohemotherapy. The insufflation is pretty much identical as far as the effects and the benefits, but you do it at home. It takes 5 minutes. You have your own machine. You're low and slow. You don't have to poke yourself in the arm with a needle, and I mean, like our machine's $2,000 for retail. You would only be able to do like, a handful of IVs for that, or you could have your own machine forever. It's like buying filtered water in glass, everybody, filtered water in glass, versus buying your own machine to filter your own water. Yeah, it costs more money to buy the filter to filter your own water, but in the long run, you save so much money.
Yeah, being able to do it at home is, why not? Cool. Well, I'm going to have to try that and then probably add that to my list.
Yeah, you've got ozone in Austin. I know there's a few guys there that do the steam saunas where you're at. So it's like a Russian banya. It's a steam sauna, and then they'll put the ozone gas in it. I don't suggest you do those. I mean, it's great and all, I guess, for like the steam aspect of it, but ozone dissipates at like 85 degrees. So if they're running ozone gas in a sauna that's like 100 degrees, the ozone doesn't really get into your body. So that's kind of the
That
deal.
sounds cool. I might need you to send me the names of those places. I'm a big sauna cold plunger.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, sauna and cold plunge cold, but trying to mix ozone in a sauna just does, it sounds great. And there's a lot of really cool machines out there and devices out there that you can do it all. But when you look at the science of how ozone,
You think better separately.
yeah, I think so. Because, I mean, look, if you can you need to get the ozone inside you. You need to get it in your blood, right? You need to get it in your system. So enema's going to do that. It's going to hit your homortal vein. That's like the core of your body. That's where everything is usually the most stagnant as well. So if you can insert something as an enema, then you're going right to the core and then out and up. IV is cool because it gets in the blood and the lymph, but it doesn't get deep down into the core of the body until you do like a bunch of sessions. You got to really get your levels elevated to get the deep scrubbing is how I like to call it, like that deep scrubbing within your body. So I do the enema, and then go do a sauna, then go do your cold plunge, and
then it detoxes out. Yeah.
Let's go. You're supercharging the whole pathway, right? You've loaded your body up with oxygen. You're scrubbing it with O1, and then you go and you sweat, right? Or
you gotta find a place in Austin to try it.
Yeah, I'll look some up. Some old partner probably sold a few machines to some guys down there. Austin's got everything, so I'll help you out.
Okay, I want to ask you: do you like traditional sauna or infrared sauna better?
I'm an infrared guy. I'm glad you asked that. Everyone does the traditional. I mean, look, a traditional sauna is like, I don't know. You could say steam, like a fire with water and hot coals, or rocks, But what we have now is an electric saunas, and these electric saunas, they get up to like 200 plus degrees. It's ambient air, the heat that's around you, right? That's what that is, and that's why I want us to wear those hats, because it's 200 plus degrees in there, and it's hard. It's not easy. But a near infrared sauna, it's light, not ambient air. And that light penetrates your body around 6 inches from each side of the panel that you're on. So if you've got a good one, you should be pretty much getting fully penetrated from at least 3 sides of your body, your back and your sides. And if you move around a little bit while you're in there, obviously. Or if you lay a specific way. Like I like to lay in mine where I have a panel like right here, a panel in front of me, a panel behind me. And then I'll just switch halfway through. So my liver gets hit, my gallbladder gets hit on one side, and then my other side gets hit. But I found, like, just through my own like hair analysis of metals, I was doing steam saunas for a while, or not steam saunas, like dry saunas for a while, and there was some benefit there, was some dumping there. But when I got on the far near infrared saunas, I was able to dump way more metals. And I also just noticed like my recovery was better because it's light that's penetrating your body. It's not just ambient heat. And there's just something about a 200-degree sauna. It's hard to breathe in there. It's like, you feel like you're suffocating, and it's being produced by electricity. And like, I always want, like I said, I'm a no tox freaker. So like when we found your page, I was like, oh, let's do a podcast together, because I'm so like, I get called all types of names in the business and at home because I'm so like, OCD, I'm so crazy about all the toxicity. But I just feel like those saunas, there's something in the air.
I let my Greek flag fly. I don't care anymore. But yeah, no, I'm glad you said that too, because I was infrared sauna for like years, and then I was like, started going to this place with a traditional sauna because I was like, it's just like what people have been doing forever. That's the sauna that's been around forever. I just feel like it's probably better for you. And I will say, when I like switched back to the infrared, I was like, I just feel so much better after doing infrared. So I think one of those things that's like, with modernization, we've actually made a better product. And like, obviously, as long as you're going to one that's like low EMF and,
yeah, clear light.
Yeah, you have to be getting good quality ones, but like I just feel so much better after doing an infrared sauna. Like I feel like I got detox.
Yeah, me too. And again, it's like a traditional sauna, they would get stones and heat them up and then pour water on them. And then that is what created it. That was the traditional sauna. What we have now at these dry saunas, that's all electrical heat that's producing that heat. And that's why I feel like there's something, maybe ions in the air. They always kind of smell funky. You know, sometimes you get like the wood smell because they use like, you know, super fragrant wood with resins still in the wood. So you get that smell, but there's always like a weird funky metal smell out of those things. And over time, you know, like what happens over time, right? So we know that over time that's a big issue. Like things break down, and especially when you're heating things up to 200 something plus degrees, like metals break down, charges change, molecules start moving around. Little kids go in there and spill shit on it and break stuff, and so I've got two kids. You know, I just like think about things that happen, and especially these commercial saunas with boneheads that go in there and they start pouring water on there. I don't know that. So, anyways, that's my deal. I'm with you. Far and infrared.
Yeah.
Clearlight's the best I've found. They have ceramic panels that are super low EMF, and they have a lifetime warranty. And that's what I have at the house. No affiliation with them at all. I need to become affiliated with them though. Yeah, it's good. It's good.
They're the best.
Had it for 15 years.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I've been thinking about getting one at my house, but I feel like the sauna is also kind of my like social time. I try to use that, like, you know, I usually sauna about 3 nights a week, and I like usually meet up with friends there, and I try to use that as my like
Yeah.
So I don't want to get one at home yet. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. Social time's super important. I just get freaked out with going into someone else's sauna or someone's sweating, and I know everyone wears towels and stuff, but I just like I said, I'm kind of not a germaphobe per se. I mean, I do jujitsu. Definitely not a germaphobe. I've had literally guys on top of me with their sweat dripping on my face. All during COVID too. We still rolled, and I'm not a germaphobe per se, you know, but I definitely get in that sauna and do an ozone after that shit. I'll tell you that.
I mean, I will say, yeah, I mean, I like this place that I go, but like sometimes you go in there and you're like, oh my God, someone's wearing like cologne in here, someone's wearing perfume, and it pisses me off.
Or someone just smells like shit because they're toxic. Yeah.
They've been eating like shit, and yeah.
Yeah, because it's what
you
it is.
You can't stay home. I can't stay home all the time. I got to get out.
No, yeah. No, for sure. For sure. Dude, what'd you say on the last?
Oh, sauna is the perfect excuse.
Of course, no. That's such a cool thing. And like before I go to jits, I got a few guys. There's a gym right down the road. They're always like, "Come do sauna first." They do sauna, then they come to do jits. But I'm just like, no, y'all go do your thing. I'll do my own at home. I'm like, oh, you got you on at home, and I'm like, yeah, prioritize my health, motherfucker. Like, let's go. Like, don't get on me about it. I've had it for forever. Yeah, I got the cold plunge, got the renew.
Oh, nice.
As well. Nice. Yeah, I put that in my gym. I built a barn, and I put a little small gym in there because that was the only way I was going to be able to train and work like I work. Because even like I'm not out in the country far, but I'm far enough to where like the nearest gym's probably like a 25-minute drive.
Yeah, so, it makes sense just at home. I know that's my plan. Like once I do move a little bit outside of Austin, build out my own gym and like sauna and cold plunge at my house. My own garden. Yeah. Don't have to go to the market. Have a goat so I can get my milk, you know.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's not easy though. I'll tell you that. You know, like when I first started growing a bunch of food, I was like, we were growing so much food, we couldn't eat it all. And then I started doing the farmers markets, and that's kind of like where I got into that. Like when you mentioned about food prep, I was like, oh, I can only imagine how hard that is, because I remember growing beds of lettuce and having to like harvest them and clean them and do it with the right way, and then package it and not in plastic, right? And then you've got only a few weeks to move that produce, and it's just like it was. And then crucial 4. Oh yeah, and by the way, you have this amazing business over here that you need to run as well. So
I don't know. We have nice farmers markets in Austin, but they are just so crowded. I am always trying to find ways to avoid them. So like I get my
just get up
meat
early.
delivered now from someone who's like I'm like a vendor from the farmers market, but I get it delivered and I go to this like small farm called Boggy Creek Farm on the east side to pick up my produce.
You got it.
But so I think I've almost like got a good system down to where I don't have to go to the farmers market anymore, which is
Yeah, like I still go, like I get my goat's milk down the road from a farmer. Local meat, I'm very, when we're in Texas, Cam, we got the best meat.
yeah.
People don't know like how good the meat is here. The regenerative beef is on point. That's what my grandpa did. And my uncle switched everything to regenerative lamb.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I'm a lamb guy. I just got there, actually, that's right here. I just did like a pound of lamb. My son's like, ugh. But I grew my own dill. I took the goat milk. We made yogurt out of it. So I made my own ziki. Took my, onions. I freeze dry onions and I freeze dry my garlic to make onion and garlic powder. Because I found that stuff at the store is just loaded with metals, like super high. Like, herbs
Quality.
are loaded. Consumer Report did a deal on it. It got me testing all my other herbs that I was buying from Whole Foods. And these were all organic. These were high end, but the metals were so high, and I knew it was the freaking manufacturing equipment. It's the only thing that made sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they have to powder it, right? So they have to chop the shit out of it, and then they have to grind it down, and then they have to dry it. It's that chopping and grinding, and depending on how they do it, whether they grind it after they dry it, which is typically how it's done. Sometimes it's chopped before, laid out, so it has more surface area. So when they dehydrate it, it dehydrates evenly. Because if you get moisture locked inside uneven pieces that are cut, then it'll mold.
Yeah, I've also heard there's a ton of mold in the spices at the store.
Yeah, because so the very reason I just mentioned. So if you don't dry it properly, or you don't cut it down, like you don't break it down to all the same size, when you put it in whatever you're drying, which commercially they use commercial dehydrators. But like what we do, and this is just for us at the house and a few people, I'm launching like a members only thing for the digital course where I'm going to actually give access to like small quantities of the stuff we do in house. But like the way we do it at home is I dry the garlic and onion traditionally. So I pull it out of the ground. I don't wash it. It still has dirt, all the bacteria on it. And then I hang that up in my barn, colonial style. And I just let that dry. And I let it dry for almost like 6 to 8 months before I touch it. And what that does is it just obviously naturally helps preserve it. But I'm not jumping right into taking fresh garlic. I mean, I'm also using fresh garlic for my own cooking, but this is mainly to make powders, right? Because what I'm trying to do is get moisture out of the product, right? If I can't get moisture out of it, it'll have mold in it. It's like you just mentioned. And so that's an art. It's like fermentation. You have to have your systems and procedures really dialed in to create a consistent product. And the only reason I know this is because I've made it wrong and have had like thousands of dollars, like tens of thousands of dollars, not tens of thousands, like a couple thousands of dollars of like vegetables that I've tried to preserve in certain ways, I had to throw out. Because maybe I didn't get the salt right, the salt ratio right for a ferment. Maybe I didn't dry it right. I can remember one year I dried the garlic completely wrong. And yeah, I was like rushing to get it done. So yeah, you live and you learn. It's definitely a labor of love. But I freeze dry everything now, and I just find that to be way better. Slow dry it, hang it, slow dry it, and then freeze dry it after that. And then that seems to be the best way I've found to not only preserve nutrients, but also like flavor and smell. Because a lot of these like garlic powders, you smell them, you're like, yeah. Yeah, it's like it kind of smells like garlic, but not really. Like, oh, I wish I would have had fresh garlic. This garlic powder kind of sucks.
No,
But
you can't do the powder. Yeah.
Yeah, and so when I freeze dry it, I'm able to. I work with the guys that with the freeze dryer, we can set the temps, the dry temps through the sublimation process, which is basically just like a vacuum. So you freeze everything and then you create a vacuum, and that's what helps pull the moisture out. But you can set certain drying temps. A lot of freeze dryers, they'll dry at like super high temps. So it kind of is contraindicative of the word freeze dry. People think, oh, it's just frozen and it's never heated. Like most of the time it actually is heated afterwards. And that's what creates sublimation. But you can modify it to where you lower that dry temp, but it takes like 10 times as long to dry. So what would take 24 hours now takes like 7 to 8 days or 10 days to dry. So it's more expensive because your machinery's working and your machinery's gobbled up for 10 days versus 24 hours. So from a business standpoint, it makes no sense. Like it would never work, and that's what we kind of all have to realize too. A lot of these things that exist in our world, like it just sometimes doesn't make sense. So it's like, just do it yourself.
I totally agree.
So, anyways, yeah, made it home. Well, thank you. I want to thank you for taking the time to meet with me today. And yeah, do you have any other questions for me at all, or?
No, thanks for having me on. It was great to talk to you.
Awesome, cool. Well, definitely want to put a link. If you could let everyone know like how to reach out to you. I think everyone's going to be like all about what you're doing with this website. I'm all for it. I'm ready for it. Definitely want to get that word out there for people,
Thank you.
So,
yeah, we can just put a link to my Instagram. You can reach out there.
Okay, cool. Do you have like a
non-toxic living content there?
Awesome. And do you know when you're going to be dropping the website?
It's live. So.
Oh, it is live now. Okay, awesome. Okay, cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. Another awesome resource for everybody. So thank you so much for your time.
Yeah,
and we'll drop all the notes in the footer for everyone to check out your website. And yeah. All right. I'm going to stop the recording.